I hope you're ready.
This is Unbridled Thoughts.
We want to hear what you have to say.
Welcome back to Unbridled Thoughts. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Ren, and you better grab the mains because there's no reins at Unbridled Thoughts.
Well, today is a day that I have been looking forward to for a very long time. We have Blanca Lopez, which is AKA Dr. Lopez, and she specializes in acupuncture, and I just cannot wait to ask her so many fun questions.
Yes, I am so excited about this because I see a lot of guests and awesome clients, and when they're on the table, they'll talk to you, and sometimes a name will come up over and over again, and you're always looking for good, quality, educated people that specialize in certain things for you to send your clients to that you trust. And once you hear a name over and over again enough, you start to realize, okay, this person's very trustworthy. They would take really good care of my clients. I love how they approach things. I love how they go about things. So when we reached out, we were so excited that you said yes.
Thank you. And I hadn't really heard about you until Ren had mentioned, but I am so glad to know that you are here in little middle Georgia.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and very grateful. I love what I do, and I want to be able to get the word out, not just for me, but for anybody that does acupuncture and for patients that need acupuncture, especially those that are, like so many that I see that are at the end of their rope. You know, I usually have people come to me and say, you're kind of my last hope. And a lot of times they'll walk out saying, boy, you know, we're really glad we came. We wish we had started with alternative therapies. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my dad had, I guess, is it Borealis or what's it called? No, Borealis isn't it, but what is it when you get it, the stiff shoulder or whatever?
Bursitis?
Bursitis, yeah. And he had been going and getting like shots and all sorts of stuff, and nothing was really working. He finally went to, this was in Nevada, you know, somebody who specialized in acupuncture, and he was like, I was great. Actually, I think it happened when he was working in Washington. Doing the Boeing thing, and then my sister, like my best friend and sister, she had the paralysis in her face.
Yes, Bell's palsy.
Bell's palsy, yeah, from stress, and she went. You know, I knew people personally who had that before, and their face would be sagging pretty bad for even years afterwards. You know, and she had it. She went and did acupuncture, and her whole face was like better within a month. I was like, what? And it was bad.
Yeah.
It was really bad. So it definitely works. So I'm excited to ask you some questions.
Sure.
Well, we want to start way back. Not way back, but way back before you were doing acupuncture.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I immigrated from Cuba when I was 4. My mom and my grandmother and I got on one of the Freedom flights that President Johnson opened up. And
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
We were sponsored by my paternal uncle who housed us in White Plains, New York for a small amount of time, and then we settled in Port Chester for about 3 weeks. 3 years. And when my dad came over, he had been a political prisoner, and he was fortunate enough to get out. Long story, not something to cover today, but we ended up moving to Florida, and then I grew up down there and came to Mercer for undergraduate school and kind of stayed in the area. I went to medical school at Mercer as well.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's an amazing story. I'm really glad we asked you that.
Yeah, it was funny because I was kept back a year in kindergarten. My kindergarten teacher, who was really a wonderful human being, had an interpreter explain to my mom that, you know, she thought I was bright enough, but that the language barrier was really hard. And she said, I think if we keep her back a year, she'll get command of the language and she'll be fine. Otherwise, she may hate school. And, you know, I could see that. So she really did me a huge favor.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow. Okay. Well,
I
was
know
gonna
we're just processing what you're saying because it's such a powerful
yeah, that
story.
was a lot. Yeah.
God bless teachers, man.
Yeah.
Amen.
You kind of touched on it, but tell us about your childhood, because that's kind of being an immigrant in a new city and then moving again.
Yeah. So when we first moved to New York and I started school there, I went to private school, and I hate to say it, but I hated it. A lot of the kids were kind of mean, and it was rough in Port Chester. But when we moved to Florida, much better environment. I had command of the language, and I was basically a tomboy. My mom and dad had me and had my sister. There were no boys in the family, so I got to pal around with my dad, who was a carpenter, or is a carpenter, and he would have me come along and I do all kinds of handyman stuff with him. I was very short, and my dad's English wasn't great, so I used to call the lumber yards to order the materials. And this one day, I remember I went with my dad to pick them up, and this man kind of peered over the desk, and he goes, "Are you the person who called with the order?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 6. I just look a lot shorter for my age."
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I grew up also loving music. I played the saxophone for several years into college and enjoyed it tremendously. I miss not being able to play now, but hopefully I'll find a group of old people to, join with me at some point here. It's on my bucket list anyway.
That would be so much fun.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Do you have any other hobbies or anything?
I love sports. Can't play much anymore. I'm out of shape, but I love nature. So
Yeah.
anytime I can get out on a kayak or just go and do a little bit of fly fishing, which I enjoy, I'm looking for that outdoor experience.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. What brought you to Georgia, though, from Florida?
Well, I came to Mercer for undergrad.
Oh, Mercer. Yeah, that's right. Duh.
And then I
You said
stayed for
that.
medical school. No, it's okay. And then I did my residency here. And by that time, I really, when you go home to Florida and your Spanish-speaking cousins tell you have a Southern accent, you kind of figure you've been somewhere a long time.
Yeah.
But as my parents grew older, I really didn't want them to retire in South Florida. I really didn't want to go back to South Florida. The traffic and the population's just gotten so big. So I knew that they needed a place to retire that was nice, and this is a good place. Especially Perry. I love Perry. It's a good community. I mean, the whole Middle Georgia area is a good area, I think, to live and raise kids. And we have a very good school system in Houston County. And my kids went to public school and did very well and really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's great.
How many kids do you have?
I tell everybody I have 3. I have one in heaven. One passed between my son and my daughter. We had to disconnect life support on her when she was about 5 days old.
Wow.
And then I have my son who's 26 and my daughter who's 19, and they're very close, and we're really very blessed to have good kids. And I've got 2 step boys. I've lost track. I think one's 35 now, or 36, and the other one's 32 or 33, somewhere in there.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
That's so neat. Okay, so did you always want to be a doctor, though?
Yeah, when I was young, I really wanted to be a vet. And when I was 12, I got to shadow our vet in town, and I loved him, but I hated the fact that he put every dog down that was peeing or too old to be able to do much. And so many of the clients down there would put their dogs down. I was like, I can't do this. So the next thing that came to my mind was, human medicine. And yeah, at that point on, I really did feel like that was what I wanted to do. I don't know if this is a good time to bring it up or not, but I really feel like after doing medicine for 32 years, when I made the decision to go into acupuncture, I really did it because I felt like there was a huge chasm philosophically between what I believed and what mainstream medicine believes. And there were a set of circumstances in my life that led me to do what I'm doing now, and I'm very grateful. But I just don't feel like medicine is what I thought it was going to be. And more so, medicine is not even what it was when I got out of my residency in 97.
You are not the first doctor to say that to me.
Yeah.
So you're not alone.
Yeah. Well, thank God.
Yeah. So what set your mind like to being a doctor once you were like, you know, it's like a childhood dream, but then when did you feel like you could actually achieve this goal?
Well, you know, I've always been an intuitive person, and when I was younger, I just felt like whenever anybody got hurt, you know, playing with kids and somebody scrapes their knee or they got a cut, I was like there.
Yeah.
I was all over it. And, you know, one of our medical students at one point made the comment during his interview that he knew he wanted to be a doctor when one of his fraternity brothers got seriously injured. And everybody was running away from the blood and he was running to it. And I think you just know, you know, there's a moment when you realize there's nothing that I like better than this. And for me, it was like the best of both worlds. You can combine science, which I loved, and, you know, the human aspect of caring and applying that science to helping somebody, which I thought, gosh, it doesn't get better than that.
That's how we feel about skincare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do.
Yeah, as estheticians, that's exactly how we feel.
And we also are both fans of the more natural, you know what I
Yes.
mean? And we're always trying to push our clients into more, you know, what they call alternative
Yes.
medicine. However, we all know it was the original medicine.
Well, that's funny that you say that because I find it ironic that we, you know, have come to the name alternative when it started with herbs.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Right? I just think that's one of the points of hubris that modern medicine has. I find so many people that come and say to me, hey, you know, I told my doctor that I'm doing acupuncture for this, and, you know, they asked me, what are you doing differently because you're responding? And they had seen that the medicine hadn't really been working, and when I tell them acupuncture, they just poo-poo it. And the thing that bothers me about colleagues that do that is that it's fine if you research and you look into it and you maybe even try it, but to poo-poo something that you don't know,
Yes.
and to say, well, there's not any information out there, there's so much literature.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people don't even really understand that medicine changed dramatically in 1912. And when it was bought out,
Yes.
and it was not bought out by a doctor. And from then on, we've been playing this game, and it's been in our food, it's been in our medical. I mean, I have had doctors tell me when I went to go to be a doctor, it shocked me that they don't even talk about the basics of like healthy food, nutrition, and exercise being a form of, you know, you only learn about food if, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. This is just what I've heard from other doctors.
No, so far you're right.
You only learn about food if it contradicts with a medicine and
Yes.
drugs.
Yes.
You know, and so it's so sad to me. And I have a story too. I had to learn the hard way that, I mean, I hate saying it because you are a doctor and you're so
No,
lovely and you're so
please,
smart.
please.
But it's like the word practicing, like I'm practicing to be a doctor. I'm like,
Yes.
it makes sense now. You really are practicing on every individual.
Yes. Yes.
So that's how I felt like. I went through 5 years of I was being practiced on.
Well, I find it again ironic that there are physicians that say, oh, if you take natural products or you go out and you pick, herbs from a garden, you don't know what other things are in there. Well, guess what? When we take pharmacologic drugs that they haven't tested long enough, that sometimes the testing shows that there are some problems and it's covered up. And those folks are taking medications that, as the liver processes the drug, you have other components that are generated that oftentimes are not good for you.
Right.
You don't see doctors saying, "Oh, don't take that because, that
We
might
don't know
cause
the
problems."
effect of it. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So this is so much fun.
I told
this
you,
is like
I
my
know.
whole
Isn't
life.
she awesome?
This is like what I'm so excited about. My mom was like a supernaturalist. Like that's just like how she was, and she was. Let me get out my essential oils. You're bleeding out. We don't need to take you to a surgeon. Let me pack it. We're good.
A little dirt in it.
And, back in the day, I was just like, Mom, just can you give me some drugs? Can you take me to go get stitches? Just take me to a hospital. Take me to the doctor, And then when I went through my little 5-year practicing medicine fun, I was like, my mom was onto something. She was right this whole time.
Yes. Well, getting back to the nutrition, I can honestly say that I can't speak for everyone's experience in other schools, but at Mercer, we had very, very, very little nutrition. I think now they're making an effort, especially the biochemistry professors are really trying to get students to think about, what's in the food that we eat and what vitamins do, different vegetables have, and, what are the components of meats that are good and bad for us. Don't get me on my soapbox on cholesterol, because I think that this country has gone just crazy with physicians, ironically enough, not looking at studies about cholesterol and how important cholesterol is. I'll mention 2 things, and we could probably do a podcast just on these.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm like, we got to have you back on. I'm already jonesing to have you here again. You haven't even left.
Cholesterol is such an important component. We make all of our neurotransmitters, our hormones, in some way are linked to cholesterol. Our hormones, very much so. Cholesterol is the mother compound for male and female hormones, and composes about 70% of the myelin, which composes a huge amount of the brain and the whole nervous system. So I'll say 2 things about that. And if you really do want to have another chat about this, I'd be glad to talk to you about it more in depth. But we see so many people that get put on cholesterol-lowering drugs that end up with low testosterone and low estrogen levels. Women estrogen, men testosterone. What a lot of people don't know is that men and women both make estrogen and testosterone, but men make more testosterone.
Right.
Women make more estrogen. Let's take the man. You get a 50-year-old, 55-year-old that's been on cholesterol-lowering drugs for, let's say, 10, 15 years. Their testosterone is starting to tank, and the cardiologist wants that cholesterol below 100. Even if the good cholesterol constitutes the majority of that total cholesterol, they're still going to get that cholesterol below 100. What happens? That man's testosterone tanks. His libido falls.
Right.
He has erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
He has depression.
Yeah. Well, they have 2 more drugs for that, so it's good. Sounds like good business to me.
Unfortunately, I'm starting to think that that's honestly how some physicians see it. They get the blinders on, right? They see their specialty and they don't see anything else. And if there's one thing that, Chinese medicine has really brought back around, and it feeds my soul, because this is how I started, and it's so important. We are not little parts all put together. We are a whole. We are spirit, we are mind, and we are body.
Amen. Preach it.
And you cannot separate those.
Yes.
That's something I love about, even Ayurveda and Chinese medicine is that there's not any compartmentalizing.
Yes.
It's not like you're working on a car and it's like working on this part. And we see it sometimes when we have guests that will come in, especially with like rosacea and acne.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And like with you, everybody plays a role. Everyone plays a part.
Yes.
But to mirror what you said earlier, sometimes we have guests that will come in and say, "You're my last resort. I've tried everything." Mm-hmm. And so, we can touch and feel the heat on the skin, and we can kind of say, okay, there's something bigger happening here than just your dermis and your epidermis. So let's approach it a different way.
Right.
And I love that in Chinese medicine, you're looking for like these patterns.
Yes.
These like really cool like patterns that kind of connect everything, like what you're talking about.
Well, the Chinese have a beautiful saying, Chinese doctor, the bad doctor finds the disease late. The good doctor finds it early, but the excellent doctor finds it before it manifests.
Oh, that's good.
And if you think about that, what is that? That's prevention. That's prevention and early detection. And in the United States, we give that a lot of lip service, but we really don't see it. It's rare. And I'll tell you, part of the reason, it's not all doctors' faults that we don't want to do it. It's that so many doctors feel captive to the insurance company and to Medicare to, not say, what, we're not going to take insurance anymore or Medicare. If you want to come see us, you're going to pay a set amount. It's going to be fair. It will lower their costs because they'll have less people having to work for them and do coding and everything else that medicine has gotten tied up in. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the person and say, what is this a manifestation of? Be it their skin, a cough, a headache. It's all tied together. And the people that really get the benefit is when you treat the whole person.
I agree. Well, and I think when I was doing research, I want to say that did you go to medical school to become an internist as well, a doctor of internal medicine?
Right.
Okay, very
yes.
cool.
I graduated from my internal medicine residency in 1997. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes I'll switch my numbers.
Oh, you're in good company.
You're in great
We're all
company.
neurospicy here.
Oh, man.
One of us.
Yeah. Yeah, she's definitely. Did we all become best friends? I don't know. Can we keep her?
Listen, I'd rather have 30 delicious conversations right now than one boring one. Like, we'll just pop around like popcorn. That's why I'm like,
I just want to keep her. She's one of us.
You all make me feel like I'm sitting around the table, sharing a cup of coffee with good friends. So thank you so much.
Oh, that really does mean a lot, because that's
that
what we
means a
want
lot
people to
us.
feel. We want them to feel warm and welcome and like,
Well, you
let's just
definitely-
hang out and have a good time.
You definitely make one feel that way.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. I'm so happy you feel that way. And then I think I want to say that you taught for a while as well. Taught medical school for a while as well.
I did. So I had a country doctor scholarship when I went to medical school. And what that meant was you signed up to practice in a rural area, and you paid back, 4 years of service for 4 years of scholarship for paying for medical school. I went and I did that, and Then I realized I really, really, really enjoyed teaching. And my nurse would say, you spend too much time with the patients. And I'd say, well, but if you teach somebody to fish instead of giving them a fish, you help them more, and then they can, share that. And at one point I had an opportunity to teach at Mercer and to, work with medical students and residents, and I loved it. I did it for 15 years, and it's interesting because the reason that I left teaching at the medical school was really because of my own personal health. I had a heart condition that modern medicine could not help me with.
Wow.
Had terrific doctors. It wasn't because I had, bad physicians. But at one point they had to put me on medicine that made me terrifically sick. And it was during the time that I was taking the acupuncture course. And so, here I was, 53 years old, and I was feeling like I was 90. I went to one of my clinicals, and my wonderful, wonderful professor, Dr. Helms, who has been doing this labor of love to train physicians and nurse pracs and PAs for over 50 years. After one of the cases that we analyzed, I said, this fella in the case sounds a lot like me. And I said, I promise I'm not a hypochondriac, but can you recommend anybody I can go to, in the Atlanta area or thereabouts? And he said, let's work on you after class. We've got 5 more days. And I'll tell you, I was on 4 medicines, and 3 of those were antiarrhythmics, and they made me so sick.
Mm.
And by the end of the week, I had gotten off of those 3 antiarrhythmics. I was just on a small dose of beta blocker, and guys, I have not turned back.
Wow.
The end of the week?
At the end of the week of school. Yes.
And y'all can't see my reaction when she said that. I
Yes.
was like gobsmacked.
I know.
Yes. And so I went back. I had originally looked into acupuncture because I was interested in working with the athletic department and another doctor there who was looking at concussions. And I thought, maybe I can help with acupuncture with some of the sports injuries and the concussive stuff. And it was amazing. That quickly turned into, oh my goodness, I can treat people that are my bread and butter, my diabetics, my cardiac patients, my patients with liver disease, asthma, COPD, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, when I went to administration to say, hey, can I do this in my own clinic? They're like, no, because we can't charge insurance for this.
Mm.
So, that really put me in a crossroads in my life, because at that point,
You knew you were onto something good.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, here I am, I'm teaching these medical students stuff that I believe in, I know they can use, because I taught the clinical exam and differential diagnosis and, how to practice medicine. And that just wasn't cutting it. The kids were going to the hospital, and a lot of them were just doing a bunch of tests, MRI, CT, blood work. And they weren't looking at the person. They weren't examining the patient. And I said, Lord, I really feel like something is missing, and if I go to this class, I invest my time, you've blessed me with this aptitude, and I then don't use it when I can help people in a natural way. And I honestly just heard, this peace came over me, and I heard the Lord just basically say, do you trust me? Step out. And I stepped out.
That is so strong.
I know. I mean, like, terrible.
I know.
I mean, I can honestly tell you, I may be physically tired, and there's some days that I truly do get home and I'm exhausted. But my spirit is so alive, and my heart feels so filled. I didn't feel that for years, even teaching, and I loved teaching. I loved students. I loved that, interactive, and helping those kids to learn that it's just as important to be a human being and grab somebody by the hand and just hold their hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's healing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember having this experience at the hospital one time when I was a resident. I'd walked by somebody's room that honestly I had no right to walk into his room, but I just knew that he was dying and he had nobody in there.
Oh.
And, I sat there and I held his hand, and the nurse came in a little while later and she said, are you working with him? And I said, no, I don't know this man, but I think he's dying. She said, he is, and he hasn't had a visitor in weeks. And, he died while we were both in there. And the aha moment for me was, number one, you think about it, okay? I'm an immigrant from Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
I not only come to another country, I live, I learn, I grow. And God has us both at this crossroads. When it was his time to go, I happened to be walking by his door.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a coincidence.
Right.
And so many things about our lives, we think are coincidences. They're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're not coincidences. And the beautiful thing about it is it finally gave me what I needed to know, which is I went to medical school more than anything so I would have permission to touch people.
Yeah.
When you can touch somebody,
Mm-hmm.
that desire to help them, that humanity,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's the most healing that you really can do for someone, but it is so powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And it connects us all.
Yeah.
It gives us all life and hope. So anyway, I think I diverged.
No,
quite a bit.
you actually led it right.
Your story is like everything is so beautiful. Like I'm literally like my mind right now, my brain just feels like it's on overload. I'm just processing so much.
And not in a bad way. That's
Not
a
in a
good
bad way. It's
yeah.
like good. It's just like everything you say is so beautiful and wonderful, and I agree with so much of what you're saying. Everything you've said so far, and especially I think Ren and I can both say that like what we
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so thankful to do what I do because there are so many women who come in and they are just tired and broken,
Yes.
and then you get to love on them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For 1 whole hour, you
Yes.
just get to lay your hands on them, and you get to encourage them, and you get to pray over them,
Yes.
and you get to just do all the things that they're not getting. You know what I mean? And sometimes men too. Men need it too.
Absolutely.
I have more women, but when I do have a broken man in there, I can feel it, and it's one of those blessings. I know Ren feels the exact same way as I do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, basically what you said led me into my next question for you. But yeah, like we can pick so much up through touch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we can retain a lot through touch too, especially anatomy and physiology and the systems of the body that we learned in school. Because like going back to you describing the cholesterol and the myelin sheath, while you were describing it, I was like, okay, this is like the lamp wire, the lamp is the brain. I'm kind of going through everything. And then when you were describing what happens with the lack of cholesterol, I was like, okay, well that means that rubber part on the wires like stripped up. And I was like, then that means it's a live wire. And then I'm starting to go, oh, that's not good. You know what I mean? You're kind of I can go through what you're saying because we touch people all day and can kind of like keep up with that visually in our minds, and then connect with them on almost like a spiritual level too.
Definitely.
Well, I think one of the things that I really want people to know is you don't have to have a degree to be a healer. We're all healers. God intended for us all to be communal and to heal each other and to love each other. And I think when, I see people that say, oh, well, I don't want to go to this person because they do functional medicine, or they do alternative medicine, or they do, stuff that I don't know about. I mean, you don't know how many people have come in and said, I had never even thought about acupuncture because I thought it was kind of like voodoo.
This is woo woo.
Right.
That's what we hear all the time. That was a little woo woo, but
But think about, you all as healers, when somebody comes in and they're broken and they're coming to you for a skin disorder, and think about people that have skin and hair issues. Everybody sees it, they feel like they're on display constantly. You know, and all it takes, even when they kind of maybe are able to get away from that, and then they're at the store and somebody's staring at them. That's such a beautiful thing that you do. Well, and that you do it with love.
Yeah, and I say it all the time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in any way, but I feel like going back to our body all being connected. Okay, so trying to explain to people how important our skin is and the health of our skin is can be a little bit hard, you know what I mean? But like, this is our first line of immunity and defense.
It's
you know what I mean?
At the end of the day,
it's
the largest organ
on our body. Okay,
that's right.
And so, but I think a lot of things come out in our skin that's like happening internally, you know, all the time. And I mean, since I went to school, before I went to school, I would always say I knew acne was a gut issue. But 20 years ago, that was, it's just an excess of oil, or it's just an excess of dirt, or it's just clogged pores, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, there's a bigger science to this. And I always, so it's like, yeah, you do feel like, but it's the emotional healing too, you know what I mean? But I do feel like when we see people, there's a lot of times because I'm looking for things. I know Ren is too, because she's so smart with this, but you know, you're looking for different discoloration of the skin or eyes or hair. You know, I'm looking at my clients' hair all the time, you know, and you see things, and I have many times been like, hey, have you seen your doctor about this? Or we're touching them, I'll feel their thyroid, and I'll be like, have you seen? And I just had a nurse come in today, and she told me what a certain cancer is. You can feel it up in your collarbone when it mastizes or something like that.
Oh, yes. So the supraclavicular lymph nodes up here. Yeah, breast cancer is a big one for that. And lung cancer.
She told me, she's like, if you ever feel it and this is what it feels like, you need to tell them to go to the doctor. And I was like, okay.
Oh, that's
I love
great.
it when these little moments come into me.
Yeah, we learn so much from our clients too. I mean, that's how we learn about you. And we even will look at the face sometimes. Like, I'll look at the face when I do a consultation, and I pull Chinese medicine. Like you and I have talked about that, Sarah, where I can look at the face and tell what organ is stressed out. Or
I love it.
And she's really good at that. I'm more at like vitamin deficiencies is where I feel like I peg closer to.
Yeah, that's where we like bounce off each other really well. But that's the thing is, I feel like in all of this compartmentalization, you know, I think even when it comes to like modern science, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think sometimes stuff that's not considered the physical science, or like, I'm using air quotes, y'all can't see, like in the this physical realm, it's just dismissed. But everything is so full circle. So we touched on Chinese medicine. The school I went to was Atlanta School of Massage and Division of Aesthetics. Yeah, they had like amazing instructors there, and they did like a Chinese medicine trek.
I love it.
Where we touched on things in both modules. And I remember looking at, you know, reading about like, I'm going to say it wrong. I know you don't say chi, but I remember reading about the life force and being like, well, this just sounds like blood tissue. And then looking at the channels, and they look so much like nerves. And it's so old. It predates everything. And I think people forget we as a species learned a lot about our anatomy and physiology from Chinese medicine.
Yes, absolutely.
It predates all the European and Western, any of the anatomical stuff you see, any of the Gray's Anatomy books, go way older, way older.
Yep.
And I think just people forget, you know. But kind of going back to that, like, physical science and in the real world kind of a thing, I wanted to ask you, too, about just your natural intuition. Do you feel like you always, even as a child, kind of had a natural intuition to where you can kind of sense and feel those things? And
yes. I remember my grandmother, when I was about 12, having a terrible headache, and I don't know where it came from. Well, I do know. It was God, but I didn't think about it at the time. Just hopping up there on the bed, got behind her head. I was very small, so I was I probably looked like a Smurf. I put my fingers on her forehead, and I felt that energy when that pain left her. This is so strange. I've I can't believe I'm talking about this on the air, but it'll mean something to somebody, I hope, and that especially if they have this gift. I felt the energy come through my fingers and the pain come through my fingers, my arms, out my mind's eye here in my forehead, and it felt like a mint peppermint patty. And about the time that that thing happened, my grandmother
Is she reading
said,
our soul? I'm just
I know.
what
This
is happening right now?
Yeah, we can't really. We love that you're bringing this up because we, as very professional estheticians, like
Yes.
licensed and everything, there's things that we'll get together and we'll share experiences, and then we're like, "Well, that was a great story," and then we don't talk about it again. But the fact this is so cool to hear someone besides us saying this out loud, like it's like so cool.
Yeah.
well, the gifts of God are the gifts of God, and some people are embarrassed to talk about it. I don't tell many of my patients some of these stories because I think, not everybody that comes for acupuncture is coming sort of with that mindset of being receptive to spirit. But I believe that, God gives you the gifts that he gives you when you're supposed to get them. And I guess at that time, my grandmother needed me. And, that was an absolute remarkable experience. And I'll tell you what's even neater. My grandfather, who had passed early of brain cancer, I think this is like in the early 50s, did that kind of thing for my grandmother.
Whoa.
Yeah. So she said, "Where'd you learn that?" I said, "I don't know. It just came to my mind." And I've always felt really close to my grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was amazing as I grew up, and then I would talk to my dad about stuff, and my dad would say, your granddad and I had a conversation about that years ago. So I just feel so much that we're connected to our ancestors, to people that have passed on. And
You're blowing my mind.
I know.
right now, okay?
I love it.
I can't even handle this conversation.
Yeah.
well, the Chinese, I think that acupuncture and the Chinese philosophy resonates with me because the Chinese believe very much that the Jing, that Qi energy, and actually I do call it Qi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always heard it as Qi.
Yeah, it's spelled Qi, and some people will spell it Chi, but it is Qi.
Qi.
That ancestral Qi is actually in our DNA.
Yes, epigenetics.
Yes. So, it's real.
Yeah.
And what's really neat is that they didn't know all the terms that we do now in modern medicine. But, for people that are skeptical about acupuncture, I tell some of my patients, listen, the electron microscope, which sees infinitesimally small parts, can actually show pictures of the bundle in the acupuncture points that are nerve, artery, and vein. And it's a little bundle. So the thing actually exists. It's not like you just go, oh, let's just stick a needle nearby here. You get this sensitivity in your fingertips as you do this, and you can actually begin to feel not just the divot there between the two fascial planes, but you also can feel the energy. And when our teachers told us this, I thought these people are crazy. but it's real. It really is. It's remarkable.
Yeah, we both do a little bit of acupressure in our facials. So we'll do that same
Excellent.
thing where you kind of feel with your fingertips, and like my favorite is like that the sinus is right here. There's a name for that
Yes.
channel, but you can feel like the little natural like notch in like the bone or like that that myofascial band. You're like, ooh, and you just want to like, and then it pops open.
Yeah, that's bladder too.
Oh,
So many
that's cool.
people think too that when you say, okay, this point is, whatever organ it's connected to, bladder or gallbladder, are the ones, the two that are most misunderstood. Oh, but I don't have a gallbladder. Well, it's linked to the energy of the organ, not necessarily to the physical organ itself. And I always tell people, now imagine when somebody has an amputation and then they get that, phantom itch.
Yeah.
Yes. You hear about that.
Well, that's because the chi is still moving.
Yes, the
along
energy
that
is still
area,
there. Yeah.
Right.
And the same, I had my gallbladder taken out. Well, that doesn't matter. There's so many things. I mean, you guys don't want to be here for hours with me, but
No, I actually do.
I just love talking about this because I honestly feel like I'm having a conversation with friends, and quite frankly, I've never done this before, so I felt like, oh, please, Lord, don't let me go off on a tangent, and because I am really
Passionate, and
Passionate.
Yeah, we
and I
can
love
tell.
it.
We love
I
it.
love
and,
it.
and I tell people all the time, sometimes we take circuitous paths right to what we're supposed to do, but everywhere along the line, we're learning something that's helping us be a better person, a better professional. So you can't poo-poo when you think you've gotten, sidetracked. Because, I had a moment when I thought, well, what if I hadn't gone to medical school and I had just gone to acupuncture school and I would have been doing this so much longer? And then, I think God whispered in my ear, hey, you know what? If you hadn't gone to medical school, you would have wondered what if. Number one. Number two, if you hadn't gone to medical school, you wouldn't have all this knowledge that you get to apply to how to use the acupuncture. Because honestly, I think that's the biggest gift that I bring to the table is that, yes, I am an intuitive. Yes, I am, a person who wants God to lead me in healing folks. I tell everybody that's willing to listen, I'm just the conduit.
Yeah.
It's God's blessing through me, and I'm happy to be able to be that conduit. But medicine, the study of medicine, the science of medicine, that's what helps me really help that person. And let me tell you, I used to think that saving a life was the ultimate, that there was no money that you could pay me that would ever make up for the feeling that you get when you save a life. And that's still very true. But when you get a diabetic or a person with peripheral neuropathy that's 80 some odd years old and they've gone up on their gabapentin to the point that they're falling over and falling on the ground and hitting their heads and breaking a hip, I see people like that, and it's because they have them drugged. But what are they trying to do? They're trying to accomplish, get rid of that fire in their feet, get rid of that pain, get rid of that itching, that tingling, that burning. And when I do acupuncture, and in 3 or 4 treatments, it's like they're telling me there's no fire in my feet. Yeah, I'm a little numb, but I can deal with that. My feet aren't burning and waking me up at night. And then you do a few more treatments, and some of them regain their feeling, their sensation. I had a lady who said to me, I went to the beach with my daughters, and in 20 years I haven't been able to walk on the sand because the heat of the sand just burned me to the point that I couldn't stand it. She said, I went to the beach and I was able to walk on the sand.
Wow.
What an absolute... I mean, guys, if I could do this for free, I would. I truly would. It feeds my soul.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to see the body heal itself.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no pharma. There's no frustration because you're putting somebody on a medicine that you know is going to give them side effects.
Right.
But it's the best you can do.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Everything is just, I can't say it enough. It's just like everything you say is so beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Circling back, like I was fixed, and everybody laughed at me because when I said they just took the tubes out, the tubal ligation, but I would say, like, I swear I can feel my ovaries mourning my tubes.
Yes.
And people were like, oh, you're crazy. Like, you're just in pain because you had surgery. I'm like, no, it's not a pain. It was like a feeling I can't explain. And I felt like my ovaries were mourning their tubes, because the tubes were missing and those were their friends and they're no longer there. People thought I was crazy, but now I feel justified.
No, they have to learn life without them.
They have to learn life without them. Exactly.
I'm going to tell you, I see so many people with, psycho-emotional problems that manifest somatically in the body. And it's almost like somebody can sit down and start telling me what's hurting, and it's like they're telling me a story of their pain.
Yeah. I believe that.
And
100%.
And again, I have one patient in particular who just absolutely blows my mind. She's had a cough for several years, and they thought that it was all pulmonary. And it turns out to be emotional. When I started doing treatments for her emotions and her anger, the cough started getting better.
Wow.
I believe it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no, everybody, I was in an abusive relationship, and in it, I ended up gaining, 3 autoimmune diseases.
Yeah.
And when I was in that marriage, I used to just ache all the time. I mean, every day I had a headache. Every day my body hurt. No matter what my diet was, what my exercise was, what my vitamins. And as soon as I got out of that, I mean, I went like 2 solid years, and I was like, I haven't had a headache in like 2 solid years. I still get my occasional migraines, but even that I pretty much have dialed into the fact that I know it's a blood sugar issue, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I didn't know that until just recently. Man, now we've talked about so many deep things. It's like hard to be like, what was the hardest
your
part
favorite
of
color?
you getting to become a doctor? What was it going to school?
The hardest part of me becoming a doctor, I think honestly, because I was dyslexic and didn't know it, and I read very, very slowly.
You wouldn't know it because I totally forgot that until you reminded me
Really?
that you had said that earlier. Yeah.
Well, that was pretty hard because a lot of my colleagues and friends would just, they'd be on their second reading of thousands of pages, and I was barely getting through half of it. So I had to develop the ability to memorize things, when I read it once. And, high school, I really didn't do anything in high school. I was pretty lazy in high school. I really didn't know how to study. And then I had to learn how to study a little bit more in college, but medical school really was like, boom.
Hey, you heard it here, parents. Okay, you heard it here first. You have a lazy high schooler, that doesn't mean they're not going to be a doctor and do amazing, great things later on in life.
Well, I will tell you, I tell parents all the time, and that, I don't talk to parents much anymore, but teaching at a medical school, sometimes people would, come out and say, hey, give my child a shot in the arm. And I tell people, and especially now, I would tell them, if your child has 2 or 3 things that they're interested in and medicine is not the only thing that they can think of, please don't live vicariously through them. Don't put them through that. Don't give them a guilt trip, because I think medicine is very broken, and I think medicine is going to continue to be very broken until we get to that point where, doctors take control of their patients' destinies and our own destinies.
Yeah.
A lot of doctors practice out of fear anymore.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of doctors that are wanting to quit medicine altogether because they recognize the system is broken, and the system's not being run by the right group of people. And it's a shame, it really is. But oh gosh, if your child, I know there's some kids that have a calling, and by all means, but if it's not that, don't push them in that direction.
I mean, don't push them in any direction. I think that's like one of the biggest mistakes that parents make is you want them to, you're trying to like grow little mini-me's or something like that. And you want them to kind of fulfill the things you didn't fulfill, but really and truly, it's a manifestation of love.
Yes.
And you need that manifestation of love to just kind of grow up and do its own thing. And, you may not always agree with what they're doing, but when you sit back, it was really hard. My second son he's a genius. I mean, he's just brilliant mind, so smart. Used to do the highest math problems verbally, in his head. He'd make me shout out while I was cooking dinner these crazy long math problems to him. And he would sit there with nothing, no phone, no nothing, no calculator, and he'd like work it all out in his head, and come out with it. And he really wanted to be a medical scientist, and I was like, for it. And then right there at the end of high school, he was like, no, I want to be a financial advisor. I just love numbers. I want to be a financial advisor, And then he went into interning in that, and he was like, I cannot sit behind a desk all day. So he ended up being an electrician.
Good for him.
And either way, I'm proud of him. But at first, when you're a parent, and you're like, what the heck? What the heck? What the
heck? He fell into exactly what he needed to do.
Yeah.
I find that with acupuncture, it feeds the kinetic part of me.
Yeah.
One of the things you asked me about what was so difficult about medical school, I am not a visual learner. I'm an auditory learner.
Oh.
And also a bit of a kinetic learner. And so to sit and read was just mind-numbing.
Mm-hmm.
But, and so you have to look at what is your kid, how do they really absorb.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that now that I do acupuncture and I can talk with people as I'm doing the acupuncture, it's the best of both worlds for me. So God brought me, to where I needed to be. And I think all of us kind of get there.
Yeah. Sometimes we take the hard road, but
yeah, and that's okay. Because I will tell you, having done medicine and having gone through so many days that I went home just downright depressed because you have to play the game. You have to play the game. I worked as a hospitalist while I was building my practice in acupuncture, and I won't mention the hospital's name, but I worked in this hospital that was a bit of a distance from here, so I had a non-compete. So I couldn't practice in this area. And that hospital made us give everybody a prescription for a statin when they came in and they'd had a heart attack, unless the person had an allergy to the statin. And I didn't believe in that. And, here I was, I'm the doctor, and I've got these people that are part of an administration that apparently have made a deal, right, with some pharma, and they're pushing these statins, and I knew that in most cases, it was going to be a bad thing, and I'd have to say, listen, I've got to write you this prescription, but my recommendation is for you not to take it. And that puts you at odds, not just with a mindset that's a corporate mindset, but it puts you at odds with yourself if you go along with it. And I can't tell you how many times now I think, thank you, God, that I am not in mainstream medicine doing what challenges me morally and ethically, and that I'm doing something to help people get away from a bunch of pills.
Yeah.
And allowing their bodies to do the healing. So I'm especially thankful because I went through that, and I know how bad I felt at the end of the day. And now, like I said, I could be very physically tired, but my heart is in the right place.
Yeah.
My soul feels good.
I think you've talked a couple of times about God giving you a gift, and I do think that there are certain people, in the three of us in this room, maybe four of us in this room too, who I think healing is the gift that we had from God, and I didn't understand it completely, kind of like how you were, but I had some incidences happen when I was a kid, and then I was like, wow, maybe this is, but I thought I had to go take other routes too, and then you become what you are now, and it's just that I thank God for what I do for a living, and
Amen.
The people I get to love on and help heal and help guide and help, and I'm constantly right there with you on the under, like, well, maybe you should think about this and not do this. You know what I mean? The little anti-doctor over here.
No, I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah.
I think you don't have to go to nursing school or medical school to be a healer. Now, do you need to, establish good conscience and make sure that
You're not misleading.
You're practicing within your scope.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because, I tell people all the time, acupuncture is not going to fix everything.
Right.
Don't come to me thinking I'm going to do some, miraculous. If God deems what I do to be a miraculous thing, that's fine. But understand that I may say to you, I may help you a little bit with pain, but I'm not going to fix this. I've literally told people, you need to have surgery. And believe me, I'm one of those that says surgery is a last resort.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have had to say to people, I'm going to be taking your money, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But there's so many modalities. The Chinese believe that the skin is governed by the lung channel. Why? Because it breathes.
Yep.
It's a living, breathing organ.
Yeah, I did learn that.
Right? And so many people don't know that. And boy, I can't tell you how many times I see grief manifested in the skin.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is a real Chinese belief. And when you were talking about all the different conditions that can show up, I was thinking, yeah, that's grief.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
autoimmune.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's so many forms of grief too. People forget,
Yes.
like, it's not just losing someone to a death, watching your parents grow older. There's grief in that, or having to move for a job when you love where you live. There's grief in that,
Divorce.
Divorce.
Losing a job that you enjoy. Yeah, absolutely.
There's grief and a lot of things that we don't know. And like I said, that's why I love doing what I do, because you just get to take that person away, for a little bit and just let them forget about the world and
Yes.
love on them for a little bit. I'm
Yes.
sure you do the same thing in your
Yes.
field.
I try. I really
Yeah.
do. Sometimes I have to, as I'm talking with people, sometimes there's a little tough love involved there. And I'm sure that, it's like I used to tell my medical students, guys, you're not going to be a fit for everyone, but you have to be true to you. And most of all, you need to do what you do with the intention to help.
Yeah.
And God will honor that and use it, and the people that you're working with will appreciate it.
That's right.
So you went into how you became passionate about being an or getting into acupuncture. Did you ever go into what draw you to the classes to begin with? And if you did, I apologize, because how you said you're not a visual learner.
Yeah.
I'm not on audio, so sometimes
That's
I'm like,
okay.
was this said? I can't remember.
Well, I mentioned it very briefly. Yeah, so I had an office there in the little sports complex, and I was seeing a lot of sports injuries coming through, and concussion was something that I was very interested in. And I thought, yeah, this would be great. I could supplement, what I'm already doing in internal medicine with a little bit of sports medicine. And acupuncture would fit right into that because, of course, along with acupuncture, you learn cupping and other techniques, gua sha, that, would help injuries. So that's really what initially got me interested.
Which is, I think, incredibly brave of you because, I mean, you just know in the medical world, like you said, they think all of this is such woo-woo. So, you obviously had that calling and that deep down passion inside of you from the very beginning, and then you experienced it. So then you could really get passionate about it.
When I was in medical school, I thought about acupuncture, but of course, you're going through so much material and you're focused on getting through medical school. And I thought, that's something down the road. But yeah, I mean, initially, when I was about 26, I said, yeah, this might be a neat thing to learn to do, but it kind of got side.
I know that acupuncture is like very, very like deep and like there's a lot of moving parts to it. So would there be any way to kind of wrap it up in a tiny little bow for the listeners who really don't know what acupuncture is?
Yeah, so, we're 70% water for a reason. And we have electrolytes in our body that are in that water, potassium, sodium, chloride.
We hope.
We hope. And getting back a little bit to what Ren was talking about, The fascia is basically a connective tissue that covers everything.
Mm-hmm.
And where acupuncture is concerned, it covers muscles and it creates these little clefts between muscles that are covered by fascia, and those acupuncture points are kind of in those clefts. I'm mentioning this because the whole point of putting a needle in an acupuncture point is electrical.
Mm-hmm.
It's to draw the electricity to that needle.
Mm-hmm.
And by drawing the electricity to that needle, that particular point sends a message to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And different points can be used in combination with different points to do all kinds of stuff. And then single points have very specific multi-messages, right? But at the end of the day, the reason acupuncture works is because it helps the electricity in your body move.
Mm-hmm.
And we are moving.
Mm-hmm.
We are vibrating molecules. You know, we're more dense than air.
Mm-hmm.
The chair is more dense than we are.
Mm-hmm.
A rock is more dense than a chair. And what that density means is that the more dense, the slower the molecules move. But in that paradigm of vibration and movement, there is the electromagnetic field, which is what chi is. It's electricity, and it moves with the blood, and the blood moves with the chi. If our heart stops pumping, it usually stops pumping because the electricity to the heart stops,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if either the blood or the electricity stops, we stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beautiful thing about the needles. Now, having said that, when you do acupressure, by putting pressure in that point, you know, your electricity
Mm-hmm.
is also being transferred to the person. And I'm going to say this, and it gets a little technical, so I don't want to get into physics, but at the end of the day, the Chinese believed that our intentions, if you come to me for acupuncture, I have to be mentally and emotionally prepared to give you my best.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, you know, if I'm ever sick, I cancel. Because I'm feeling badly, I'm not going to give you energy. If anything, I may rob you of energy. Because when I'm putting the needle in, we're connected.
Right.
Right? And so it's intention, and intention is energy in motion, and it's love.
Yeah.
It's all wrapped up into a nice little package.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you say the water in the body is kind of amplifying that electrical charge, like across
Absolutely.
the fascia through the
Yes.
through the tissues of the body?
Thank you for bringing
Okay.
that up, Bryn, because I got off on my...
No, I was
on
doing
my
the visual thing
tangent.
where you were talking about something, and there was like a whole animation happening in my head.
Well, you know, when I was in medical school and we learned about nerves, we learned about the brain and the brain connected to the nerves, and the nerves ending up in, you know, little connections, right? Mainly in the muscle. We always, you know, learned the myo, you know, electrical junctions there. The fascia, though, we have found in modern medicine as we study, is a continuation of that nervous system.
Yeah.
And this is the coolest thing, is because the fascia is so full of water and it continues to everything, okay, even the cells at the cellular level get electrified.
Oh, that's cool.
So it truly is a whole body effect. And as a matter of fact, I'm learning now, and maybe in the near future can incorporate tuning fork vibrational therapy for people that are really scared of needles.
That's crazy because I've been looking into that so much.
Really?
Yeah.
We
Oh, that's awesome.
recently made some friends that are sound therapists, so we might have to like get you all connected.
Oh,
That'd be
that'd be
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's really a lot to that, and I would love, you know, to be able to pick your brains about what you've learned. But yeah, the whole notion that we are energy and we are vibration. It plays right into acupuncture. It plays into the tuning fork frequencies. And God made us this way.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
Amen.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, who don't really take the time to read their Bible, and I'm going to get very controversial right now, they forget that we are so much of a spirit.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And, it's all over the Bible.
Yes.
He tells us we're not fighting flesh and blood.
No.
We're fighting spirits and principalities.
Yes.
God is a spirit. He put a spirit in us, all this stuff. But then in the physical world, everybody wants to see everything in just completely physical.
Right.
And they forget.
Yeah, it's funny. I have some Christian friends that when you talk to them about, sort of materializing, they get a little freaked out. And I'm thinking, when you think about Jesus, when he appeared to the disciples, and he literally walked through a wall.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? His frequency changed.
Yeah. And then he even says, the gifts I have, you're going to have them even greater.
That's right. Because I'm going to send you the Holy Spirit.
That?
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I pray every morning on the way to work.
Love
Every morning, and I ask God to use me as a conduit and let everybody see him, not me. Because at the end of the day, it's coming from him. The praise should be given to him. And if there's ever a day that I stop thinking that way, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't tell you how many times. I could sit here and tell you experiences that I had in my residency, in my practice, where the Holy Spirit really let me know he was there.
Her, same thing.
How do you not give God the credit when, the blessing is his? And I'm going to tell you, I think a lot of people, when they read the Bible, they envision another time. Everything that existed then exists now.
He says that.
Yes.
Everything's the same.
Yes.
Nothing happens today that didn't happen before, and vice versa, you know? So we just forget those things, and we stay so much in the physical.
Well, we think that science is so smart, but, there was a time when physics thought that, everything was linear, and now all the physicists that are, cutting edge are saying it's so liquid.
I have a girl crush.
I know you do. She's loving what you're saying.
I am crushing all over you right now. I love you so much.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm blushing, which is a little scary because I turn purple when I blush. Being Cuban, I don't get that red because I've got that olive skin. So unless you see me fall to the ground and seize, I'm just blushing. And if my kids heard me right now, they'd probably drop dead of embarrassment. But they're so sweet.
I love it.
But black holes, right?
Yeah.
Jesus said, in my Father's kingdom there are many mansions. Hey, come on, this is not the only universe.
All right.
There's we're not just it.
Yeah.
And I think that we have to remember that science only begins to scratch a little bit at what incredible things God has done and will do. And, when I'm having a bad day, I try to remember, hey, you know what? You got to surrender it to God because you're gonna try all your stupid little ways of fixing something, and all he has to do is one little something, and everything changes.
This is the same exact talk I had told myself today.
I remember having an amazing conversation with somebody about how the parable of the sower of the seeds is about the planets in the universe.
Oh.
And it blew my mind.
I have not even thought about
this. It gave me
this.
goosebumps, and I was like, it's just so cool to be able to just even have a conversation about it. To not say if someone's right or wrong, to just listen and just be like, take, if you will, just to have those kind of conversations.
That's why I became a philosophy major in college.
Nice.
I started off in the Great Books program freshman year, and I liked it. And I kept taking classes, and at the end of my junior year, my advisor said, you're only a couple of classes away from a major. You might as well go ahead and get it. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And it was because all my other classes were science and math and science and science. Mm-hmm. And this was a class that I could go and we could have this kind of conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, who wouldn't want to do this?
Yeah.
Get away from all the science and math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving from philosophy to history, was there a story or anything you learned about in the history of Chinese medicine in particular that you were like, holy moly, that is so cool? Like even going far back?
Oh gosh. Well, there's one that I didn't read about, but we were told by our teacher, Dr. Helms. He said that, acupuncture originally was used on the royals. Mm. And that at one point the royals saw the benefit and allowed the monks to, go out and treat the people. Oh. And because China was such a huge place, sometimes the monks wouldn't get back around to a village for a year or two.
Yeah.
And the folks in the villages quickly learned that stomach 36, which is sort of a few inches down below the knee on the outside of the leg, it's called Suzan Li, was a point that was so incredibly good for so many different things that the village people would burn an area with a piece of charcoal and create a blister and then pick at it and keep it kind of oozing.
Yeah.
So that point stayed stimulated and would keep them from getting sick.
Wow.
Oh.
And if you look at stomach 36, if somebody said to me, you got 1 point, there's only 1 point you could put in, that's the one that I would put in.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was really neat, and again speaks to the sensitivity of the fingers, is they found that blind monks were the best at finding the acupuncture points. Mm. And that's because generally when you lose one sense, the other senses are heightened.
Yeah.
And so these blind monks who imagine, you're a blind monk, what's the most you can do? You can get around and stumble into things, but all of a sudden these monks found this calling and were doing such wonderful things, right? And so they went around, and at one point, the majority of the folks doing acupuncture were blind monks. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really neat.
That is really cool.
That is so neat.
And then going into the present, this was part of the question I had for you, but you already touched upon it. There's tools used in Chinese medicine that have evolved over time. And a lot of them we're seeing kind of bleed into our industry. Yes. So we see cupping with massage and myofascial tissue work, and then gua sha stones. We see that with the face, for beauty. Yes. But they've been used in Chinese medicine for years. Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference on old tools versus new tools, or what do you see as far as, could you explain to us sort of how much bigger the scope of those tools can be? Besides just beautifying and kind of not just bringing heat out of the skin, but what all they also do. I hope I said that okay.
Well, at the end of the day, gua sha is something that helps bring blood up to the surface and get blood through the muscle to the skin, and of course it helps the skin tremendously, but it also helps the muscle. And it obviously gets more blood and nutrients to the cells, all cells. I use gua sha a lot in conjunction with dry needling to help with muscle pain, muscle strain, chi that is blocked, that I'm having a hard time. And also around and on scar. Scar, depending on where it forms, can actually block the movement of chi. because what a lot of people don't understand is that the little line of scar that you see at the top of the skin is like the tip of an iceberg. The scar actually kind of underneath in the connective tissue is thicker and wider oftentimes. And so when you deactivate that scar, and gua sha is part of that, it can be, you open up movement for the chi, and you unblock the chi so that the chi can go from one point to the end point, if you will, of a treatment program. And you wouldn't believe how many people I see that it helps. One of my assistants, who actually was originally a patient, came in and she had what looked like about a half of a softball on top of her trapezius muscle on the left shoulder, and it was really, really noticeable. And she's such a tiny, petite woman. She had been through about $40,000 worth of standard medical care, and they actually harmed her. At one point, they cut the cervical nerve.
Oh, gosh.
And, her scapula winged out. It was horrifying. And I started doing some dry needling along with some acupuncture, and then did gua sha, and ended up really doing more gua sha towards the end than anything. You can barely see it now.
Wow.
And she came to me because she couldn't turn her head to drive.
Yeah.
And she was the driver in her family.
So was it an adhesion in the muscle, or?
It was, well, she had adhesions, but she also had just a big petrified muscle spasm.
Wow.
I mean, it was just, it's the best way I can describe it. And that gua sha, allowing the muscle to feel that movement, right? And then getting the blood to the muscle and just relaxing the tissues made all the difference in the world.
It almost sounds like that part of her body was just like suspended in motion. Whoa.
It was. I kid you not. It's like if you had taken a softball and you had shoved half of it down into her body and the other half was at the surface.
Yeah.
And you really honestly can barely see it now. And this lady went through shots, expensive shots.
Wow.
Pain clinic, the neurothoracic folks, like I said, did shots in the nerves and then severed the nerve as a last resort.
Mm-hmm.
So horrifying.
Yeah.
One of the things that just drives me crazy, and I understand, because a medical doctor has 15 minutes to see a patient because they got 40 of them lined up for them. But it's not that doctors don't know what to do, it's that they don't have time to do it.
Right.
And,
That's so scary, though, when you let that sink in. Like, it's so easy for me to say, right. And then for me to just have that reaction and not let that sink in. And I'm letting that sink in. And that's really scary.
Yeah. And to defend doctors a little bit.
Yeah.
When you have Medicare paying you $40, which is generous, for somebody that's got 10 or 15 things wrong with them, and you go 10 or 15 things, I could rattle off 10 things like that right now. And that doctor is maybe going to get paid 40, 23, 35.
Dang.
And they've got a staff to pay, they've got overhead to pay.
Yes. Rent
They
the
have
building.
to see.
Yeah.
They have to see. And then you have people in specialties, and as an internist, of course, I'm giving you my perspective. I'm sure that the specialists can tell you how ripped off they are, but as an internist and taking care of people, like I said, with multiple chronic problems, and then you'd see somebody go to an orthopedist, like my dad, who had knee surgery, and the doctor basically said, okay, do this. And he had to kick his leg out a couple times, patted him on the leg, and he walks out, and his copay is $150.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what did he do?
Right.
He didn't even check reflexes.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, but again, I chose to get out.
Yeah.
Other doctors can choose to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you've taken that Hippocratic oath and it's got to be hard when I mean, I can't even imagine it. I can't even put myself in those shoes, but you can.
It is hard, and I think a lot of people go into medicine for all the right reasons, and the system just beats the humanity, the dedication, whatever it is, that's good out of you, because if you're going to stay in that system, you got to get numb. You got to get numb. And trust me when I tell you, I was tempted by that myself, and I said no, and God allowed me to find this beautiful, wonderful alternative field, right? Where I can live what I believe.
Yeah.
That the body can heal itself, that you don't have to be seeing 30 people in a day to make a living, and that ultimately, you can be a human being reaching out to another human being and letting them know that, you feel their pain too, because it's like I used to tell my medical students, we're all going to end up in that bed unless we're run over by a truck and die suddenly, and what you put out there is what you're going to get back. We all want to see our loved ones and hopefully ourselves treated well and humanely. And I got to tell you, I've had experiences lately with my dad being in and out of the hospital. I just don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And something's got to give, and I hope more people decide the way it's working isn't working, and we need to change it.
Yeah.
Whether you do medicine or you do acupuncture, you do whatever, you need to be true to yourself, and most importantly, you need to do God's work.
And I think there, like you were saying earlier, a lot of preventative, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So many things can be preventative.
Yes. Quality of life is much more important than quantity of life.
Yeah, I agree. You kind of have touched on some of your stories, but do you have a favorite healing story where somebody came in and it just kind of sticks with you?
Oh my gosh, I have
so many, I'm sure.
I do. I have so many. I think the one that I told you about, the person who the cough was, this person had been coughing for over 30 years and even passing out from the cough. So it was a major life change. Oh my gosh. When I first started, there was a lady who was Vietnamese that they called me to see, and I would go to her home because she was bedridden. And literally, I had just started, and I was scared to death. And I told her daughter, I said, look, this is way more than I think I can handle. She had a brain bleed, and they had taken out the clot from her brain. She was blind. She couldn't talk. She couldn't eat. She couldn't move. And to their credit, she was so clean and so perfectly taken care of. But I told the lady, I said, I really think you need somebody with more experience. And she said, no, my father said you can do this. And
no pressure.
And we can't take her to Atlanta. It's too hard to get her to Atlanta. And I said, well, okay. So I said, I'll give it a whirl. And I started going out there twice a week. And, this lady went from laying flat on the bed. First she wiggled her toes a little bit, and then she was moving her hand a little bit. Long story short, by the time they moved, because they did end up moving to Atlanta, she was sitting up in a chair. She wasn't having to eat through a peg tube anymore, which goes directly into the stomach. She was able to swallow. She was able to talk a little bit. She still couldn't see, but she was human again. And that was so impressive to me, that even a greenhorn, like me, at that time, was able to just put some points in and see how God could take that and heal this lady. I know that if God wanted to heal her miraculously, he could just say, you're healed.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes God allows us to participate in the process because the blessings go out in all directions. And I know you all understand that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because being healers, that's the beautiful thing. You feel that healing in your own soul, in your own heart, in your own mind, and it feeds you. And that's when you know it's coming from God, because it's not a one-way street.
No.
So yeah, that was probably the most remarkable, and it came so early in my career that I think what God was trying to remind me is it's all me.
Yeah.
You know, don't even think, because I might have done it 7 years later, that
Right.
I had anything to do with it or my skill. No,
Yeah.
it was him using me, and I'm so thankful. I feel so humble and so blessed. It's funny because I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and they're like, "You're never going to retire, are you? You like putting needles in people too much."
I can't have you retire because after, when we're off air, we're talking about how I'm getting my daughter into you. She's been struggling with like UTIs and bladder issues for
I'll be
years
glad
now.
to see her. Yeah.
And then when you were talking about, oh yeah, that's actually the I'm like, she's coming in there.
Well, I'll be glad to see her. I'm humbled.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. I just feel, honestly, like I've just been sitting around with friends talking. I don't feel uncomfortable doing this at all. And
Good.
I'm actually pretty shy, and in large crowds, you'd see me trying to hide somewhere. Much better one-on-one, or even two or three people, but not generally good about talking.
I am not at all, which comes off to a surprise. Nobody thinks that. But I am very, very shy. And when we first thought about doing this, I was like, I don't think I can.
Oh,
But, I mean, I think that kind of helps me, like our experiences, right? Give us the best experiences.
Yes.
If you would have never had that amazing experience with acupuncture, then you wouldn't have had the passion and the drive because you saw what it did for you, you know?
Absolutely. If there's one thing I can say to those of you that are out there is, whenever you go through a hardship in your life and you think, you know, why me? If it hadn't have been for the horrible experience that I had, I wouldn't be doing this right now. And so, you know, sometimes the horrible things are the gateway to a blessing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he says that it's, you know, to the glory of all, you know, all bad things lead to the glory of him.
Amen.
So, I mean, something good is going to come out of it. You know, it's hard to see it when you're in it,
Yes.
when you're in the shadow of the valley of death.
Yes.
But,
That
you know,
is so
eventually you can work your way out of it and see the beautiful after it.
He's always with us.
He is. Amen to that.
You know, when we lost our second child, she was born with several birth defects, and we were basically told she did not have a lung, and we were told at best we might get 3 years with her, and it would be in and out of the hospital. And we really felt like that wouldn't be fair to her, and so, you know, we made the decision. Of course, prayed about it a lot, stayed up all night crying and praying, but we let her go home. And that poem of the footprints, I've never forgotten it.
Yeah.
Because he did carry me, and he does carry me. And she would have been, you know, 20 years old this year.
Wow.
And I can honestly tell you that there's not a day that, you know, I don't think about her. But God carries us through, makes us stronger.
Yeah.
And we have that hope, right?
Yeah.
That we will all be together again in heaven.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing.
And I know there's a connection, like you had said with your
Yes.
connection with your grandpa. You know what I
Yes.
mean? There is a connection. It's crazy. I mean, I had a miscarriage before I had my last one, and that was hard for me. You know, I always in my heart felt like it was a girl. And one day something happened to my kid. I can't remember, my baby. And when he got done, he was like a baby, and he was like, "Oh, I went to heaven, and I was playing with my sister."
Wow.
But it wasn't Jules.
Oh.
And I was like, what the heck is this? I mean, it just like, he was just like a little guy, Kingston, you know?
Yeah.
He was just like a little tiny one. And I was like, that was like God's confirmation in my heart. You know what I mean? That it was a girl, you know what I mean? And I will see her again.
Yes, you will.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We have more questions for you, but it was so deep and beautiful. I hate to go back to the superficial, but it's all important.
Yeah.
It is all encompassing, all important.
It's fine.
It brings out other stories too.
It does,
Like
yeah.
she kind of will say, you know,
It's like every flavor of Pringles. It's kind of cool.
I mean, I literally feel like I could sit here and talk to her forever, and I don't know if we'll ever learn everything she knows. I'm shocked.
Well, I wanted to ask you if you happen to incorporate herbs or encourage meditation in your homework you give to clients, because I know a lot of practitioners of Chinese medicine incorporate herbs or teas or things like that.
Yeah, I haven't done that because I'm a big believer that as a medical doctor, I need to have a certification.
Love that, yeah.
You know, and I'm not certified to do that. Now, I do have, over the years, I've acquired some knowledge, and if somebody says, well, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do this, I give them my 2 cents worth. I would love and would, you know, at some point consider taking a course and getting certified, but as of right now, I'm not. As far as meditation, absolutely. I meditate every day. I don't care how tired I am. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen asleep meditating. But meditation is so, so important. I'm going to share this with you, and I don't mean to digress, but I really do believe that for those of us that are Christian out there, this has helped me tremendously. You know, in the Hebrew, they say that God's name, because it's composed of so many consonants, there's really no word that really can speak God's name, except the breath.
Yep, I knew where you were going.
So, you know, Yahweh is the closest thing, I guess, to what we have. But I was reading this book, and I hate that I can't give you the title of it right now, but it's a wonderful book. It's a very old book. And it came to me, honestly, by God's grace, because the church that I go to is Catholic, and they had a bunch of books that were donated, and they had them out, and they said, you know, just if you're interested, please take some books. And I happened to see the title of that book, and I took it, not really knowing, you know, what it was about, but God knew that I needed it. So in this book, it talks about how in order for us to really allow God to speak to us, sometimes we need to simply go into meditation and not go to Him in prayer, go to Him in meditation. And what he suggested was to do sort of a square breathing exercise where you do Maranatha as you breathe in, and then you say in your mind Maranatha while you hold your breath, and then you release another Maranatha, 4 breath or 4 beats, and then you breathe in again, or excuse me, breathe out, hold it, and then breathe in again. Well, when I first started, it was really pretty difficult to do, but I've gotten now to where I can do it even in my car. You know, the traffic's bad, or what, you know, I don't have to close my eyes necessarily, but I can do this. And what I have found, and this blows my mind, is that I'm actually breathing. When I'm doing that breathing exercise, I'm thinking about saying God's name. But this is the coolest thing to me, right? Is that if you think about it, God created us. He breathed the breath of life into Adam, right? And the closest we come to saying God's name is every breath that we take.
Yes.
Every time we inhale and we exhale, we're speaking our Creator's name. Blows me away.
Yeah, because it does sound like Yahweh, like when you
Yes.
like it. That's so cool.
Yes. And it does. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that you still don't get the thoughts that'll pop in. So many people say, oh, I must not be doing it right because I'm getting these thoughts about what I'm going to cook, or, I got to pay a bill, or I'm worried about whatever. Well, that's the enemy coming in and trying to distract us. But if you stick with it and you keep doing it, I think God so honors our intentions.
Mm-hmm.
He knows we're imperfect. He knows we're going to screw up. He knows we're not going to have a perfect meditation. And how many times have we done something super well and then we're kind of going, oh, that was great. That's really wonderful. It's so easy for us to begin to think we're in control, right? When we're really not.
We're not.
And new things take practice.
New things take practice. And the thing about meditation that I love is that you really do get outside of yourself. You get outside of all the physical aches and pains and the worries and you have that period of just communing with everything that is holy and wonderful. And you may only have a split second of that you can remember. But it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. It says in the Bible that for God, 1,000 years is like a instant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so many times we think, oh, Jesus, when are you coming? Well, 2,000 years is just an instant for God.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Maybe an eternity for us. But we'll eventually learn to appreciate it.
Yeah. I always have such mixed feelings about it because I do love life. I know it's broken, but
I know. Well, and I
know
think
it's going
about
to be
it.
better, but
I try not to say that in front of my kids because my kids are like, but Mom, we're just getting started. Mm-hmm. And I realize, they really are just getting started. But we can't even begin to imagine what it's going to be like when he comes.
No, we can't. And that's what I always have to tell myself.
I mean, listen, if you believe, and I've read a lot of life after death stories, if you believe what people say about heaven and you've got a mom who, is young and vital and has a loving husband and a couple of kids, and she's saying, I really don't want to go back.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, think about what it has to be like for you to have that sense of, I really want to stay here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I mean, it really is, like, you think about it, it's like, when you die, don't mourn me because I'm where I need to be and where I want to be. You know what I mean? But it's hard for the living.
Oh, absolutely. And don't get me wrong. I have moments when I'm like, Lord, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
My little one hasn't even barely started college, and I think it's human for us to feel that way, and I think God understands that. Mm-hmm. That's the beautiful thing about God having become incarnate.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he needed to do that to understand us, because he's all-knowing, but the fact that he did become flesh and blood means he's relatable. You know?
And he has a sense of humor.
And oh my gosh, does he? I know with me he has to.
They forget that.
I tell people all the time, God has had to hit me with a brick over the head so many times. I think he's going to be running out of bricks.
Yeah, you and me both, sister.
Now, Liv, my favorite gospel is Luke, because Luke was a surgeon.
Yes.
Like, not that was a big deal back then. Like, they were just resetting bones and like pulling teeth and stuff. But he knew the science of the body.
Yeah.
And so when Jesus is praying in the vineyard at Gethsemane, and he's crying, and he says Luke says his tears like filled the goblet, and then he was sweating blood. He starts to talk about it. That's what I love about him, is talks about the science of it.
Yes.
So to see that Jesus was under so much stress that he was sweating blood. And I read that and I said, oh my gosh, Jesus was having a panic attack. And then it really helped with my anxiety to read that scripture, to know. But he wouldn't have known what that felt like unless he had gone through that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so important, like, to know that someone that loves you that much has already been through all of that already, you know?
Well, and that he tells you, you're going to get to the other side. You're going to get to the other side of that. No matter, it's funny to me, no matter what, when I have conversation about acupuncture with my patients with somebody who's curious, it always comes back to God. Always. And I, I'm humbled because I can't speak in a way that can really honor him the way I'd like to honor him. But God knows that that my whole life is his. And my kids don't like to hear it, but I tell them, like you were saying, when it's my time to go, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You speak your worship through your hands, and I love it. Yeah, you have such a beautiful heart, and I really do feel a connection to you because of the fact that I always have prayed to be able to see people the way, and love people, not see people the way he does, because I don't want to see him the way he does, because he knows everything, but
He sees a lot, probably.
yeah. And I'm not as good as he is, so I have just prayed to love people the way he loves people, and to just help me to see the beauty in people, and because I think all in all, a lot of times, a lot of churches will teach us, like, sin, 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 sin. And I don't really feel like he's up there just watching our sin. I think it's like when you think of your kids, and he says he's a perfect father, right? And so, but when we think about being parents, we aren't looking at our kids and being like, oh, these little sinners, look at that sin that you just did again. There you are, sinning again. No, your heart loves them so much, despite the little aggravants that they give you, or the little times, because everything that they do in their life that you tried to warn them against. It definitely hurts our hearts as parents, but it's their life.
Right.
And they're hurting their own life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's really nothing you can do about it, So it's just so fun to have these conversations, you know what I mean, and bring it all back together where we're just human, and we're all connected, and we're all the same in different packages, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, when you see tragedy happen, earthquakes and floods, and you can look at it just from the loss of life and the loss of home. But it also has a remarkable ability, or those things have a remarkable ability to bring people together.
Yes.
Where they're not looking at socioeconomic status or skin color or religious preference or political, perspectives. We all need shelter, we all need food, and most of all, we all need love and compassion. And I guess sometimes, as much as we have lost people, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's interesting because these life after death books that I've read, when somebody comes back, every single book, the person is just changed. They begin to see life and people and the lessons that we're supposed to learn here on this earth from the heavenly perspective. And what a beautiful thing, right? I mean, I have a 95-year-old little lady that is one of my favorite people that she says, I don't know why I'm still here. And I'm like, because you're sunshine. And she had a life after death experience when she was in her 50s in a car wreck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we all have a purpose, and we don't really know how long our trip is supposed to be or why we came, but there's always a mission.
Yes.
Well, we were just informed that we are running out of storage. So
I know,
as much as we don't want
I just keep talking to you forever.
wrap this up, but we have got to have you on here again. And now that we know a little bit more about you, we kind of know your history, we can kind of get more into the technical things. But this time we kind of, you're just such a blessing, and I'm so thankful for you.
I hope that, number one, if there's somebody out there that feels that acupuncture might work for them, whether they see me or they see someone else, give acupuncture a shot before you throw your hands up in the air, especially if you have chronic pain or any chronic illnesses. And it's just been such a wonderful experience to do this. I mean, I've been holding this microphone all this time, and I've noticed it just now. And that says a lot. Thank you all. Thank you all are wonderful,
thank you so
special
much.
people. And
You are.
Chris, thank you for being so patient. Chris has been sitting here listening to us, and
He's used to it.
he's just
Yeah.
such a nice
Story
nice guy.
of his life. He just
Yeah.
has to sit here and listen to the women. Poor man.
Poor Chris.
Well, thank y'all. I'll be
Yeah, he is.
I'll be glad to come on whenever you guys want me, and have another chat.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that.
Well, hopefully we can kind of pull some questions from the audience, and
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
That
great.
would be so
Yeah.
much fun. Yeah, and then we can have you back on, and you can answer questions.
All right, that sounds good.
Unbridled Thoughts 143 at gmail.com. So if you any questions you have after listening to this episode, or any questions that you wanted to ask Dr. Lopez,
Yep.
just email them, and then we'll start gathering some things so we could do like a Q&A or something like that.
Or
That'd be
direct
fun.
message us on our social medias too,
Yeah.
because we do check those too. Do you have? Where are you located? You need to do a little shout out on your. How can people find? Because I tried to do some research, I could not find you.
Well, the best way to find me is to go on the computer and look for Healing Point Medicine, healingpointmedical.com, and it'll show up my website.
Okay.
We're located in Perry at 209 West Park Drive, and it's right there near Dr. Westmoreland's.
Right by Angela.
Okay.
Yeah, we're behind the Robbins Financial Credit Union.
Okay.
Yay. Well, I'm going to talk to you afterwards about my daughter and myself, because now that I know that you're into functional medicine too,
Yes.
you are my girl. So I found myself a doctor, ladies and gentlemen. No
sweet.
worries anymore for all those worried about me.
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We truly appreciate you. And we're going to try to drop some kind of your website or something into our, messages, or not messages. What am my comments?
description.
Social posts. Yep. There we go.
Thank you.
I can't
Thank
think. You got my brain all rattled up. I like fell in love and you compacted with a bunch of knowledge. But on that, that's a wrap.